Hey, how's it going, guys? Mr. Boss for the win here, and in today's Red Dead Redemption 2 video, we're going to be talking about the one thing that most people missed about the ending of the game, and it's pretty significant. So I saw this post by a user Funati on the Red Dead Mystery subreddit who brought up an amazing theory about the end of the epilogue, how it relates to the first Red Dead Redemption game, and much more. So I will leave a link to that post in the description, and today we're going to be talking about that theory and the thing that a lot of people missed about the ending. So at the very end of the game, after the mission American Venom, if you watch the credits, there's a scene in particular where the Pinkertons and Agent Ross stumble upon Micah's body. And this is sort of interesting because how would they know Micah was up there? The only reason John, Abigail, and Charles know that Micah is up there is because one of Micah's former gang members, Cleet, basically told them where he was. But Mount Hagen is in the middle of nowhere. It's also on a mountain. So did the Pinkertons and Agent Ross just go on a stroll to a remote location far away? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Now, as I'm sure you guys know, throughout the game, Micah was the rat the entire time. He was working with the Pinkertons and sold out the Vanderlyn gang. However, I actually believe that Micah was working with the Pinkertons even before the gang went to Guarma, because that's when Agent Milton said he got picked up by the Pinkertons after they got back from the Caribbean. But I think he had been selling the gang out since Blackwater, which is why almost all the heists they performed in game went wrong whenever Micah was involved. So the theory is that Micah told the Pinkertons that he would bring Dutch to that spot, and they even gave him the Blackwater money so he could lure Dutch more easily. And that makes a lot of sense because some people are going to believe that Dutch was teaming up with Micah this entire time. Like for the last 6 years, he's been working with Micah. That's not true. In fact, it's kind of implied that throughout the dialogue you get in that final campaign mission that Dutch had just arrived as well, that he had sort of showed up at the top of Mount Hagen just before John did. So that theory makes sense. Micah had created his own gang, had been on his own the entire time, and he actually lures Dutch to that spot by saying, hey, I got the money from Blackwater. And this also kind of solves the Blackwater money mystery, is that the entire time it had been claimed by the Pinkertons. The Pinkertons had got the Blackwater money, and then in the end, they gave it to Micah. It's not like he just stumbled upon all of it. And another thing to note as well, I think Dutch went to the top of Mount Hagen not to team up with Micah. Yes, he was probably tempted by the money, but as you guys know, he ends up shooting Micah at the end. So I think his objective was the same as John, and he sort of states that as well. Now, anyways, getting back to the one big thing a lot of people missed is if John and Abigail and Charles didn't go to the mountain at that exact time, Dutch would have likely been handed to the Pinkertons, and the events of Red Dead Redemption might not have happened. So what's kind of crazy is that in that moment, Dutch might have saved John's life by killing Micah, but at the same rate, he also might have sealed his fate. Because after that, and if you continue to watch the credit cutscenes, you'll notice that the Pinkertons and Agent Ross, they discover John and his ranch at Beecher's Hope. And if you know anything about the plot of the first Red Dead Redemption game, you know that the Pinkertons essentially hold John's family hostage and say that he has to hunt down the old members of his gang or he won't get to see his family again. So it's because the Pinkertons went to the top of Mount Hagen to check in on their rat Micah Bell. Instead of finding Dutch Vanderlyn, they found Micah dead. Because of that, they went on their own new investigation, which led to them finding John. John wasn't even on their radar until he got revenge. And you know what's kind of interesting is a quote that Arthur repeated throughout the entirety of the story was, "Revenge is a fool's game." it gives a much deeper meaning to that line because revenge is the reason why the first Red Dead Redemption game even happens. Now, if Dutch had been captured or killed on that mountain in Red Dead Redemption 2, it definitely would have changed the events of the first Red Dead Redemption game, but I'm not sure if it would have extended John's life because, as you know, in Red Dead Redemption, John had to track down Bill, Javier, and Dutch. So if Dutch was already captured, Agent Ross and the Pinkertons might have followed the same storyline using John for Bill and Javier, or the Pinkertons would have just continued hunting them, including John. Now, the argument could also be made that John still could have been easily tracked down if he hadn't gone to the mountains. Remember, he used his real name at the bank. The government could have found him pretty easily, but at the same rate, the Pinkertons and the government would also have had to known that he used his real name. John did a really good job of hiding in plain sight, and they wouldn't even know to report his name or really look for him in New Austin at Beecher's Hope, which is why, once again, I think the events that happened on the mountain are important because it leads to the Pinkertons investigating John's whereabouts and trying to find out where he is. Now, getting back to what happened on top of the mountain in American Venom as well, the reason we know Dutch was there to probably kill Micah is because he didn't want anything to do with the Blackwater money. It's almost as if Dutch used this opportunity of Micah trying to bait him to be the perfect opportunity to kill him. Because it's very clear he doesn't even bat an eye at the thousands of dollars sitting in that cabin. He leaves it all for John. So it's clear that that was not his motivation, and he probably realized that Micah betrayed the gang and that he was going to, I guess, try and avenge what he had caused to Arthur and the rest of the gang as well back in Chapter 6 in 1899. And before that. And again, it goes back to the idea of revenge. Revenge is like the big theme of this entire game. In fact, Arthur even says revenge is a luxury we can't afford. Another quote talking about revenge, and that is the downfall for John. I mean, Abigail was begging him not to go after Micah, and we saw what it ultimately caused. And you start to see a lot of that in the cutscene of the credits, where the Pinkertons, again, are just consistently searching for John. And it does eventually lead to his downfall, which is what you're supposed to know if you've completed Red Dead Redemption. And what's also kind of interesting is Blind Man Cassidy almost predicts this fate for John. He tells John, "They will come for you, friend, and when they do, you will not have a choice. You have lived better than most," which foreshadows John's future in a couple of ways. Obviously, the first plot of Red Dead Redemption and its ending, and "you have lived better than most" provides some comfort that John has had a better life than a lot of the members of the gang, meaning that he got out, got to see his son grow up, got to obviously be married to Abigail. So there's a lot of things that foreshadow the first game in Red Dead Redemption 2 and also in American Venom as well. Now, we've been talking a lot about the idea of revenge, and one thing to think of here is you need to think of revenge for the Pinkertons too. Maybe the reason they went after John is because of what Abigail did. As you know, in the mission Red Dead Redemption in Chapter 6, Abigail shoots Agent Milton in the head. And I know not a lot of the Pinkertons liked Agent Milton, but I think Agent Ross did. They were basically partners, and he pretty much took his job once he obviously died. So maybe Agent Ross wanted to get some revenge of his own because Abigail shot his old boss in the head. So again, it just further puts the idea that revenge is what causes almost all of the outcomes we see in Red Dead Redemption 2. Even for the guys like the Pinkertons, it's something they have to think about. And that might be one of the motivating factors for why he went after John. It's because of what Abigail did, although she had to do that to save Arthur, so I really don't think she had a choice. Whereas John going after Micah was completely optional. It's not like his life would have changed if he had just stayed at Beecher's Hope and hadn't gone after him. And what's also interesting is just how similar this mission is, American Venom, to where we see the end of Dutch in Red Dead Redemption on top of a snowy mountain at a dead end, where Dutch has the option to shoot his way out, but he decides to jump off, which obviously ends his life. So again, Rockstar put a lot of detail here, and that's sort of the one big thing I think a lot of people missed regarding the ending of Red Dead Redemption 2. But as always, I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments down below. Let me know what you think about this theory and more. If you guys did go on to enjoy this video, though, a like rating would, of course, be awesome. And subscribe to my YouTube channel if you are new or you like daily Red Dead Redemption 2 videos like this. With all the way, guys, like I said, thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video.